Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Lil Dudes Insect Academy podcast. I'm so excited to be talking with my new friend Lance on this show today. So we're going to talk about bugs for a little bit with you guys. So welcome to the show, Lance. Go ahead and introduce yourself for us.
Howdy, everyone. My name is Lance Fountain, and I'm at New Mexico State studying harvester ants.
Awesome. Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. I'm super stoked for that. But first, let's talk about a little bit of your schooling. Where did you go to school, and how was that whole experience? And what were some of the things you worked on?
So, right now, I'm currently a graduate student at New Mexico State. But before I moved across the country, I was at the University of Georgia, where I actually got my undergrad in entomology. And I did all kinds of bug stuff when I was at Georgia. I helped run UGA's insect zoo. I studied insect behavior in the insect behavior lab at UGA. Um, I started a whitefly colony for the university for a big grant that they got
Nice.
to study whitefly. Um, and as far as some other stuff, I've done some vector control stuff with some friends. It's been a whole bunch of random things.
Awesome. Yeah. So, you said your undergrad was at University of Georgia, or was that your graduate?
My undergrad was at University of Georgia.
Awesome. Yeah. So, what are you doing right now? Right now, you're working on your graduate degree, right?
Yes. Right now, I'm a grad student at New Mexico State, studying under Dr. Jonah King,
Nice.
and we're doing work on harvester ants right now. We are trying to study their seed preferences for native grass seeds commonly used in rangeland restoration projects. Um, Harvester ants are typically known as Pagonomyrmex ants in the genus Pagonomyrmex. However, seed harvesting ants occur in many different genera. This could be, of course, Pagonomyrmex, but Messer, Novomesser, Fiedoli, and even Solenopsis, our fire ants.
Yeah.
So I'm doing some research that's comparing the typical harvester ant Pagonomyrmex. Their seed preferences are being compared with ants of the other genera where their harvesting capabilities are less studied to see if we should be concerned or if they could have any potential impact on rangeland restoration success.
Wow. Yeah. So, tell us a little bit more about that. You told us a little bit about harvester ants, but tell us a little bit more about them and why is this research that you're doing with Dr. King really important?
So yeah, so thank you for asking. Of course, anytime I always talk about this stuff, I like to start with like, why do we care? Why should we care?
Yeah.
Well, in the Southwest, the beef industry is a very important industry. And of course, for cows to grow, they must eat. What do they typically eat? Grass. But over the last half century, rangelands have been steadily degrading. And this term called encroachment that is occurring in the Southwest, where grasslands are being encroached or taken over by shrubs.
Hmm.
So there is a lot less grasslands available to feed cattle because they've been replaced by shrubs.
Right.
So because of this, there's been a lot of initiatives to help restore rangelands. We're currently working with the USDA National Resource Conservation Service to help inform them on harvester the potential impacts of harvester ants on rangeland restoration projects. So yeah, if you care about the southwestern grasslands, then that's what you should tell if you care about our project.
Yeah, and I mean, I think everyone should care because we all need to eat, right? So that's really important. Yeah, really cool. So,
Yes.
what are some of the things you've been finding with this research? Like, are there like solutions, or like why are these a problem? Are they're all invasive, right?
So, in terms of what we've been finding, um, a lot of these harvester ants are not. Some harvester ants are invasive. Some are native. Pagoda myrmex
Hmm.
are actually native to the Southwest. I'm not going into it with the goal of trying to accuse them of anything, or like these are bad, these are good.
Hmm.
It's just more so curiosity. Um, because we're not quite sure actually what their impacts are on rangeland restoration. Some people think that they could be potentially taking seed away for rangeland restoration projects, keeping the seed from germinating. However, there's the potential that they could not really be interacting the seed at all, and many other factors could be keeping seed from germinating, such as drought or overgrazing or small mammals that are also granivorous. In terms of what I have found so far, I have I've studied uh, seed preferences between Pagoda myrmex and Nova messer, and I've actually found a pretty distinct difference in seed preferences between the two.
Mm,
Um, the Nova messer ants did not really interact with the native grass seeds um, that I offered in my experiment, whereas the Pagoda myrmex were actually quite granivorous. And they really they I made a seed cafeteria, which was just 8 petri dishes in 2 rows of 4, and this was a field experiment. So out in my plot,
right.
I selected a bunch of harvester ant colonies, and about 3 meters away from the nest entrance, I installed these cafeterias. And again, it's just 8 petri dishes, 2 sets of 4, and each petri dish had one individual grass seed type. It was about half a gram of each grass seed in each petri dish.
Mm.
But yeah, that's what we found right now. But we're planning to do some more. So the Nova messer, maybe, again, there's not much we don't have much research on some of these ants. So maybe it was a time where the Nova messer were done foraging times of the year to see if this habit continues.
Yeah. So, how did you originally get into entomology? Like, was there a specific moment, or like, what age did you decide that entomology? Yeah, this is the thing I want to be into.
Yeah, so great, no, great question. Um, I guess it starts when I was younger. I grew up in a really old house. Um, a lot of random holes and openings in the walls or doors and whatever. And so, of course, whenever seasons would change, a lot of critters from the outside would come inside. And so I guess during my upbringing, I built a tolerance for insects and all the arthropods. Like we always had spiders in the corners of our rooms. And, I remember my mom when she would, catch, maybe there'd be like a cricket somewhere on the floor. She'd grab the cricket and throw it in the spider web. Um, and, or we're just catching stuff, or of course, like on the farm, whether we were doing any farm tasks, it's very dirty, the hands-on stuff, and there are positives in that. But I wouldn't say it's really when I fell in love with the stuff, but I definitely built a tolerance to not have any fear for
Mm.
uh, any insects or arthropods, which I think that's always step one. And then, years later went on. I went to middle school, high school, and then I started college, and I thought I was going to be a doctor. And I was pre-med for 3 years. But then COVID happened, and like I'm sure a bunch of people listening, and such as yourself, COVID gave me a lot of time to really sit back and think about just myself. Like I really felt like as terrible as the pandemic was,
Hmm.
I I felt like I built a lot of self awareness during that time, and I really started thinking about what like kind of lifestyle I wanted, what I'm proud of, the type of people I want to be around. Because up until that point, I was kind of on autopilot. It was just, like I gotta do this thing, make people proud, and make a lot of money, and whatever.
Hmm.
Um, and that self awareness led to a lot of lack of confidence in the path I was going because I didn't really like my colleagues. It, I was trying. I It was really difficult for me to find opportunity. Um, I didn't enjoy going to class. I did well in class, but I never made friends in any of my classes.
Hmm.
It just like I had no sense of community at all. So during this time, during my undergrad, I did take one random entomology class, and it really stuck out with me. because the professor who taught the class, I just thought he was the coolest guy ever. He come into class every day, and he always wore like a bug t-shirt.
Yeah.
And he had this big old pot belly, barely fit over, but you can kind of see like a little bit of his tummy. And he had this like big white beard. Think of like Bug Santa Claus. And he had so much charisma, and he was just so funny. And he would lecture in using such like colorful language, and he would bring bugs, and it was just very inspiring because you could tell he loved what he was talking about, but he also didn't take himself too seriously, and he was self-aware that we're talking about insects, and it really inspired me. And I took that class actually freshman year, and so 3 years later, I'm at the end of my junior year, in the middle of COVID, and I was fortunate enough to meet some other program, and one of them was a really close friend of mine. And I was just talking to him, and I was sharing about doubt in my direction. I didn't really know what I was going to do,
Hmm.
and we had a conversation about entomology. And he's just started telling me about the opportunities that I might could have, what it's like, what his classes are like. And honestly, it was just a leap of faith because the it was one of, I was one of my best friends was in entomology, and I had met a couple people in the program that I really liked, and it seemed like a community that I really wanted to be a part of in terms of the people that the field attracts.
Right.
Um, you know, and like I said, during this time of COVID, when I was building some self awareness for myself, I realized how much community meant a lot to me.
Hmm.
So I was just like, screw it, fine, I'll just try this, see what happens. And it was amazing because as soon as I changed my major, he got me a job in the blackfly lab. That's another thing I've done. I've studied blackfly at UGA, and my boss at the blackfly lab was like super nice, and he invited me into like a department party, and I went to the department and I met some more people,
Hmm.
and there was a grad student at that party I met who introduced me to every entomology faculty in the department
Yeah.
because I changed my major senior year, and I'm trying to work as many jobs as I can because I know I'm super behind. Like I need as much experience as possible. We had similar upbringings, and I guess he took a liking to me. And yeah, he just did this like super like humanitarian thing, and spent a couple hours of his day introducing me to everyone in the department. Um, and then I had another job. That's where I got my job at Insect Behavior Lab, and it was just like 0 to 100, like within 2 weeks, I had two student positions, and I was being involved in research, and I was just like they just took me in with open arms,
Yeah.
and it really meant a lot to me to have people want to show me these things that they care about and want to give me opportunity because I had not really experienced that before professionally. It had been things have been so competitive, and I had to just try so hard to scratch and crawl to really get anywhere. Um, but then when I really committed to the community, it's been super rewarding. People have done so much for me, and even to this point, even way after that, because I worked for a while in those labs as undergrad, and I finished senior year. And of course, I get to senior year, and I'm thinking I'm not ready to go to school. And Dr. Alan Moore, he's the head of the insect behavior lab at UGA, like he was nice enough to give me a job as a greenhouse manager. That's when I started the Wi-Fi colony, and like he just told me yeah, just take a year, take 2 years off, just think, become a mature, become an actual human being. Um, and even now, where I am today, it's always been through connections.
Hmm.
I wouldn't be at New Mexico State without the people I met at UGA because my advisor, Dr. Joan King, did her master's at UGA.
Right.
And our committee was the PIs of Insect Behavior Lab. It's been a very fun ride. I would not have believed that, like I started doing stuff, and I would not have believed that I would be in the middle of Chihuahuan Desert looking at ants at that point.
Hmm.
Um, it's I Entomology has given me a lot of first experiences. The first time I ever was on a plane was because of entomology. They again talking about opportunity, people have given me. They gave me the opportunity to go branch ESA conference during my senior year um, to represent Georgia at the entomology games, and that was a super valuable experience. Um, entomology has given me the opportunity to live outside of Georgia for the first time. I had wanted to live in Southwest, and here I am, out here in New Mexico.
Nice.
Very, very long-winded answer,
Yeah.
but the people. Short answer, take all of that and boil it down to something much shorter. Is the people. The people. Entomologists are such an interesting crew of people, and it makes sense because to someone dedicate their life to a topic area that is so taboo to most of the world, right?
Right.
You know, we're almost indoctrinated to hate insects, to fear them, they're scary, they're gross. And for someone to somehow overcome that, whether it be through life experiences or by choice, I think it gives people a very valuable perspective. And to me, it's a really interesting perspective, and it's a perspective that I find very fulfilling to be around. And ever since I have chosen to pursue the field, I've feel like I've grown so much as a person by being around these people and by studying bugs.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I mean I totally agree with you. The people are entomologists are fascinating. And going to these ESA conferences is so fun because you meet everybody from medical entomologists to forensic, and then researchers and all. It's just all so fascinating, and the diversity of entomologists is absolutely crazy, and they're all like so nice, like and so passionate. So yeah, I totally agree with you. Entomologists are really amazing, and I think I totally agree with you. Where totally a taboo thing, like insects are everywhere, and they're the most diverse. The most diverse group of organisms on the planet, right? And there's not very many of us. There's not very many entomologists, which is so bizarre to me because insects are so important for everything, food, um, you know, um, medical like medications. A lot of medications are made from insects or some sort of process that they do, right? So it applies to every single thing. Yet there's not very many of us. So I totally agree with you. Absolutely, um, totally agree with you. But that actually like segues into our next question really well. But who are some kind of influential people in your journey so far, whether it be entomologists, scientists, or just personal, like who's your inspiration, whether it be science or just your personal life?
Yeah, yeah. So and like in entomology, I have a list. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
again kind of going back to just the growing as a person thing. I've met so many impressive human beings while being immersed in entomology. I mean, probably some of the biggest ones are the PIs of the Insect Behavior Lab at UGA. It's a couple. It's Dr. Alan Moore and Dr. Patricia Moore. They took a liking to me for some reason, and they give me so much opportunity. They gave me
Mm-hmm.
the job after undergrad. They gave me a job working their lab during grad school. During undergrad. Um, they funded me to go to a conference. They were part of my connections to get me here to New Mexico State. They've been incredibly supportive. Patricia Moore is a just awesome lady. She's like covered in insect tattoos. She's a biochemist, but she's like super open minded. She's been all around the world. She used to teach in the UK. So she has really interesting perspectives on how to do science, the different approaches to science. Um, and she's one of the most empathetic people I've ever met. No matter if you're a freshman or grad student, if you're a person who talks to her, like you can really see her thinking about what you're trying to say, which means a lot to me because I think there's a lot of times we try to express ourselves to people, we talk to people, and it kind of goes in one person's ear, not the other, because they don't have time or they're too busy or there's too many things on their plate.
Mm-hmm.
And and I knew that lady's work schedule. I knew she was busy as all be, and but when I came to her with my problems, and she would sit there and really listen and put in a lot of energy to listen to me and help me. Like it just meant so much. And I'd say the same for her husband, Dr. Alan Moore. He's a geneticist, and he's really into insect behavior as well. Obviously, it's no, but anyway. Um, but I call Dr. Alan Moore my Obi-Wan because I we had a couple of really influential conversations during the end of my undergrad when I was starting to face the reality of I'm about to graduate college, I have to have a job, what I'm going to do, I don't know what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I've only been an entomologist for like 6 months, so like what in the world is going on?
Yeah.
And I met in his office one day, and I said all I just said. And during each thing I said, he kept repeating over and over and over, "Don't think about it. Don't think about it. Don't think about it." And instead of just don't think about it, is just keep moving forward. Like do what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like just keep following your interest. Like it's all going to work out. It's
Mm-hmm.
all going to work out. It's all going to work out. Um, just like enjoy the journey. You can try to plan as much as you can, but the fact of the matter is a lot like you can't predict the future. And so instead just enjoy the ride. Don't think about it and just really live in the moment. And this is why I call him Obi-Wan, because there's so many times where I'm having moments of existential crises and I'm doubting my path in life or what I'm doing or what I'm interested in.
Yeah.
Kind of I guess I start letting outside influences influence me.
Mm-hmm.
And but in the back of my head, I hear his voice going, "Don't think about it. Don't think about it. Don't think about it. Just move forward. Like just trust what you're doing. Trust yourself. Your experience is your experience. Other people's experiences are valid, but just because one person thinks one way doesn't mean that's what your experience is going to be."
Yeah.
And be hopeful. Like things are going to work out. So those are two of the biggest ones. And then also in that lab, there was a postdoc researcher
Mm-hmm.
named Avi Potticari, and she had a really interesting background. She was also into animal behavior, but she had spent her PhD studying birds. And when she came to the insect behavior lab at UGA, it was her first time working with insects. And I worked with her closely as an undergrad because a lot of my work was with her research. And we had tons of long conversations just talking about the process of grad school, the process of academia, the process of being a scientist, like what is a scientific method. Um, Working with her, I tell people like working with her opened my third eye,
Mm-hmm.
where I really I feel like I really started to learn how to question things. I built a lot of my analytical skills, and working with her led to me really thinking deeply about insects, and it really opened my mind. It opened my mind to how complex um, these creatures are, and um, how much opportunity there is in it, and how interesting it could be. So definitely a huge shout out to her. Um, Another big inspiration, also at Georgia, was actually my boss in the greenhouses. I was a greenhouse manager for a year.
Mm-hmm.
University of Georgia has a big greenhouse complex where they do a lot of their crop and soil science research, and that's where I established that Wi-Fi colony in a greenhouse, which is kind of funny. But when I was working with him, he didn't know anything about entomology, but he was one of the hardest working people I'd ever been around. He was super smart. If he was interested in something, he would just I guess, almost like obsess over it, but I guess more in a more healthy way.
Mm-hmm.
And working with him and working that year at the greenhouses, it was a really good example of like I guess the work ethic it takes to be successful to build anything of I guess substantial value. And he empowered me a lot to be a leader. He empowered me a lot to stand up to professors because in this position, I I was not. It was a different power dynamic than when I was a student. I was a colleague with professors, and I think a lot of students have fear of being confrontational with professors, and he
Right.
empowered me to believe in what I think, believe in my ideas,
Mm-hmm.
um, confidence to disagree with these highly educated people,
Right.
um, and to even engage in uh, conversations of disagreement conversations.
Right.
So the reason why that was so valuable is it led to me being much more confident to express myself to PhDs, and it led to me understanding more so that these are really smart people, but no, they
Mm-hmm.
don't know everything,
Right.
and they're still human beings. They have flaws. Um, there's plenty of things they don't know. They just know a lot about this, one thing.
Right.
And again, and once I started understanding that, it helped me realize that I could definitely have a place in science. And if I ever don't understand what uh, someone with a PhD is saying, like I don't have to just assume that I'm wrong. Like I could totally be right, and I should disagree with them, or I should say, actually I think this, or I should just engage in conversation. It doesn't have to even be malicious.
Right.
Just sharing information. But yeah, Tyler, another big one, and then tons of friends. I mean, the friend who got me into entomology actually was his name's Ben Grady, and he's a PhD student at the University of Kentucky. Back in the beginning of the pod, when I was talking about the friend I was having a conversation with
Right.
about entomology, this is that guy. He before we had that talk, I would help him out with his labs and stuff. We'd go and grab some nets and bang on brushes or get some drip nets to catch aquatic insects, helping him with his collections or anything he had to do. And it was always fun. But he's the one where I had that conversation where he asked me, he said, "Well, why do you want to be an entomologist? Why do you care?"
Mm-hmm.
And I told him, "Well, I think bugs are cool. You know, they're interesting. I like looking at them. Like it. Yeah, it wasn't a very professional answer, honestly. It was just more so like they're really stimulating."
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, "Perfect. Like that's you're in a good spot then. That's
Yeah.
how you actually feel." And he was also the one who got me the job, my first entomology job. I think the last influence I can think of off the top of my head is another grad student. His name is Jamal Hunter. He's at the University of Georgia. And this was the student who I met at that department party that
Right.
I referred to in the beginning as well. And we got along. And he was the one who dragged me to every faculty member in the department, introduced me to them,
Mm-hmm.
told them I was looking for a job. I mean, it was like he was my manager.
Yeah.
It meant a lot to me because since then he's been a big mentor
Mm-hmm.
for me in terms of my approach into my approach of being a scientist, to my approach of professionalism. If I had not met him, I wouldn't be as gotten as far as I am today in
Mm-hmm.
the field, considering that 3.5 years ago I was trying to be a doctor
Right.
of medicine. Those are definitely the big inspirations in entomology for me.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah. Some amazing people for sure. And um, to sort of like get away from your research and your work and school and all that, what are some other activities and hobbies that you enjoy in your spare time?
Yeah, I as one of my dear friends would say, I try to have my fingers in a lot of pies. I love cooking. I guess talking about pie, I love cooking.
Nice.
I grew up cooking for my family. Um, I had weight issues growing up, and learning how to cook helped me control those weight issues.
Right.
So that's a really strong passion of mine. Being active, exercise. I love going to the gym. I love yoga. I love disc golf. I'm actually a big disc golfer. I've even done a few tournaments.
Wow.
I have like a tiny art collection. It's all free stuff. It's all stuff I've either like found in a dumpster or friends given to me or whatever, or it's stuff on like Facebook Marketplace that someone's trying to throw away. But I like collecting weird pieces of art, and then music. Music's another big one.
Nice.
I love uh, just pondering on Spotify, looking for weird music and sharing it with friends and vice versa. So
Nice.
That's
Yeah.
those are things that aside from my work, aside from science, those are things that get me through each day.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, it begs the question, like, do you have a insect collection? Like, because I know a lot of people do. So do you have a little collection going, or are you more into um, like the field work aspect?
That's yeah, no, good question. I used to have a collection actually when I was before I moved to New Mexico. I had a collection, but
Yeah.
I gave the collection away when I moved. I haven't started another collection since I've been in New Mexico. Um, but that being said, I I'm not the biggest, I guess, taxonomist type. Um, the field work is definitely the thing that brought me to it. I love like my field work right now. Like I love being out in the desert by myself, just nothing but sand and grass and shrubs and mountains as far as you can see.
Yeah.
Um, something about it just is so calming. It's kind of like it's a nice shift in perspective. It reminds me of the book Desert Solitaire by Edward Abbey.
Okay.
I'm sure someone listening to this has read it.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the describe it without spoiling it. It's this guy who used to work for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and he was in Moab doing a field work of the summer, and he's in Canyonlands basically by himself, looking over the park, and he's just talking about his experiences. And when I'm out there, I feel like I'm having my own desert solitaire experiences, just out in the middle of the desert, just me and nature,
Mm-hmm.
um, and my observations. It's really very intimate experience.
I love that. Yeah, that's really awesome. Yeah. So, what are your big plans for the future? Like, you're in graduate school right now, but are you looking forward to a PhD? Maybe. You're at New Mexico State right now. What are your like big plans for the future? Any research you want to do? Schooling or trips you want
Yeah,
to do? Anything like that?
yeah. So in terms of, I mean, big plans. It's hard not to think too far ahead, but I try not to think too far ahead.
Yeah.
I'm really focused. I'm currently a master's student, so I'm really trying to just enjoy my time in New Mexico, enjoying my people in New Mexico, and produce a paper or two, and have a really high quality project. In terms of after that, man, I mean, I'm pretty open minded. Get a PhD would be cool. Have a job would be cool.
Yeah.
Um, it really, like I said, man, it just, it's more so, it's more about opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
If someone who I really admire, it really inspires me, offers the opportunity to work with them and to grow and to learn. It could be somewhere in Europe. It can be in middle Indiana. Like I don't care. Like if it's a if it's another opportunity to keep growing this community that I've built for myself, I'll do it. But yeah, PhD is the goal, and I I guess right now I'm working on a potential NSF GRFP application.
Nice.
For the idea is do insects have emotions?
Mm.
So I am a big avid reader and listener of podcasts talking about these neurology and psychology, and like what is an emotion or what is a feeling, like when you quantify it, like what is it actually?
Right. Yeah.
Um, so I'm in the process right now of basically trying to sell my case. It's one of those things that you hear it and it's like, oh, that sounds kind of ridiculous because it's an insect, like,
Yeah.
but but it's I guess more so the challenge is how do you think of emotions from a non-human perspective? Like
Mm.
how do you think about this? Like what's a way to engage in that topic that can be applied to all species?
Mm. Right.
So uh, that's what I'm working on right now. That's what I'm thinking about. Also, is trying to figure out a way to sell to the NSF that bugs have emotions and anxiety. But as crazy that sounds, but we'll see. We'll see. I have a few. I've I've been working on it for a couple of months. I think I'll have a case. But yeah, I guess if anyone's listening to this and they want to potentially work with me on that. Um, that'd be awesome to not be the only crazy person in the world thinking that
Yeah.
bugs have emotions.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I would be interested to see what you can find with that. Yeah, super cool. So keeping an open mind about the future for sure. Yeah, so like last thing before we wrap this up here, Lance, where can my viewers go and where can we go to learn more about what you've been working on? Like maybe social media if you have it, a website, maybe your lab's website. Where can we go to learn more about you?
Yeah, well, if anyone ever wants to reach out to me, I have Instagram. Username is L.C_fountain. And also my email is bugman@nmsu.edu. If anyone is ever interested to chat or learn about ants or let's just come up to New Mexico and want someone to host them, I'd be happy to let someone crash on my futon and we can go look at desert organisms.
Amazing.
Um, yeah, that's it.
Sweet. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, Lance. This was really fun to get to know you a little bit. Super awesome work with harvester ants. I know we talked about you a lot more than your ants, but that's kind of what we're all about around here. So, yeah. So thank you again so much for being on the show. It was really awesome to get to know you.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I greatly appreciate it, and best of luck. I hope Lil Dudes Insect Academy. Hope it blows up. I hope it becomes a big thing. I think it's really important. I appreciate your work, man.
Me too. Thank you so much for those words. But yeah, it was super awesome to record this episode with you. So thank you so much again.
Yes, sir. Have a good one.